So, just wait and wait to confirm that I'm coming through, that people are seeing me and hearing me all right. And we'll go from there. Sorry, I watched the the She-Hulk teaser right before coming on. I made the decision that I didn't have the time or the energy to do a reaction video to it. I'm really torn on it because it's like it's taking the angle and it's doing the character the way I would want them to. But the effects look real bad. Like really bad. Like mid 2000s bad. Like it looks more fitting to be next to Eric Bana's Hulk bad. And oh boy. I'm I'm not thrilled by how prominent it looks like it's going to be used either. It would have been one thing if it was just a couple of glimpses or it hinted that like they were going to use it sparingly, but we see her in multiple settings, multiple lighting setups, multiple outfits, and you know, full on as She-Hulk. And oh, it does not look good. It's coming out in August, which means some people are saying, oh, well, they have time to clean up the effect. I don't think they do. And I mean, if they put it in the trailer, they think it's good to go. They wouldn't have put it in the trailer if they didn't think it was something worth seeing. That doesn't work as a defense for me. Like, I'm not going to say unfinished effects never show up in trailers, but you don't prominently feature unfinished effects because you blow the first impression. So, that's that was real disappointing. Then again, we got a Sonic trailer. Well, yeah, but again, that was intended to be the finished effect. And I would point out they had more than just 3 months for that from when the first teaser hit. And they also badly crunched their effects team. So, you know, also screw them. So Sonic had more time than this. And also, the effect was simpler for Sonic because it didn't have to look realistic. Sonic was cartoonish. He was supposed to be cartoonish. They bungled by trying to go for realism. Because he doesn't have to look all that real, quote unquote, they had a lot of leeway with the redesign. She-Hulk is supposed to look real in this world. That's not something you can redo in months. It's just not. Hey. Anyways. So, yeah, I'm actually not sure, off the top of my head at least, that I have that much to talk about Doctor Who off the top of my head. I am sure that it's going to be the dominant topic of the day, though. I have no doubt it's what's going to be mainly in the chat. It's probably what will come up with the super chats. I suppose I should explain how that works. Oh, hey, Jesse. I didn't see you come in. I didn't say hi to folks. Carowin, Pirates, Gozer, Ms. Wicked, Wolf, Adrenaline, Cappuccino, Aaron, Geek Filter, all sorts of folks here. So, yes. For anyone joining the stream for the first time, the way this works is I do attempt to keep up with the chat. I make no promises. There's only 2 things that guarantee that I will see your comments and read them and respond to them. One is making use of the super chats, which will also get you a heart from me. The other is if you are a Patreon supporter, you can go to the Council of Geeks Patreon and go to the dedicated channel to ask questions to be dealt with during the live stream. I'll deal with those later. That's the Discord for the Patreon supporters. Anyway, and we've got our first one in. Supreme Omega, thank you so much. Do you fear the day when Doctor Who gets canceled and will go on an indefinite hiatus, like just like it happened back in the late 80s at the end of the 7th Doctor era? So the way you worded the question, there's two different ways I can take it. I'll try and tackle both. The first is, am I afraid that it will happen? No. Because we live in an era where you don't put massive, sprawling, spin-offable multimedia franchises on hiatus. You just don't. That's not how the world works anymore. So there's that. But even if it were to happen, it would not bother me so much. Now, granted, I wasn't following Doctor Who during the wilderness years, but we know Doctor Who can and will survive it. Whether it gets revived or not, Big Finish still exists. Novels, comics, conventions, fans. Like Doctor Who, even if the show stopped, wouldn't go away in terms of, meaningful engagement with the franchise. So while I don't want it to get canceled or go on an indefinite hiatus, I am neither afraid that it will happen nor afraid of it if and when it does. I'll be a little bummed out, but not afraid. Would you ever pick up Inside Number 9 again? We're halfway through another series right now. No. Nope. That one's probably top of the list. For a series that I was completely put off it by the fans. For folks who don't know, I did reviews, episode by episode reviews of the first series of Inside Number 9, and I liked it for the most part, but I wasn't overwhelmingly praising of it, and apparently I was critical of like a golden child episode of the first series, and I got some of the most concentrated vitriol that I have gotten from any fandom, just basically calling me all kinds of crap. Mostly an idiot, because I dared to criticize it. And frankly, I don't care if it's any good. If that's the kind of people who enjoy it, I don't want to take part. I kind of have the same feeling about Rick and Morty, if I'm being completely honest. The fandom turns me off so much that I'm like, I don't want to like something that people who behave like you enjoy. And that's not me saying anyone who enjoys Inside Number 9 or Rick and Morty are jerks, but I'm saying my interactions with the fandom, no. That put me off really bad. It's kind of unique in that way. I'm not sure that's happened to me otherwise. I've had things that I like where I'm like, I will choose to not engage with the fandom and just enjoy this on my own, which I actually do with a lot of things. Despite this being my job, I actually don't actively engage with the Doctor Who fandom outside of the Gallifrey 1 convention all that much. But anyways, I wonder if the Inside Number 9 fans hold it as that sort of untouchable place because it's intelligent. Possibly. Whatever. What is Inside Number 9? Inside Number 9 is a British anthology show. It's a little like, I've seen people compare it to Black Mirror, which is probably an overstatement in terms of the level of darkness of it, but it is kind of dark. So I get that there is a lack of other points of comparison. Have you seen Love, Death, and Robots? Yes. I did a review of the first season. I didn't do a review of the second season because I didn't have enough thoughts on it. And I saw the trailer for the third season and saw way too dang much ultra realistic CGI that I look at and go, if it's gonna look this good, or good, quote unquote, this realistic, just film live action actors. What is the point? How is this animation? Like that just as a visual aesthetic for animation just annoys me on principle. I just don't like it. Never have. So I'm very mixed. I like Love, Death, and Robots in theory and in principle. I like that it exists. It frequently does not really work very well for me, though. Strum Dynasty. Thank you very much for the super chat. This just in: William Hartnell to play 14th Doctor, to regenerate into David Tennant, to regenerate into Ncuti Gatwa. Oh boy. I know this stuff is gonna start leaking in. I don't know how much energy I have to engage with the rumor mill and what it's spinning since the last video I made, just because people are getting really like aggressively insistent about their pet theories. And it's the kind of thing that, like, there's a reason that my general standard is I don't talk about rumors. If it's not official, I don't talk about it. I kind of made an exception with that second video about the upcoming special, because like we had some actual confirmed stuff in terms of Yasmin Finney, and then we had stuff that, you know, people were filmed on a shooting location. So it wasn't a rumor. Sorry, give me 1 second. Sorry, I thought I heard something. Bookworm of the fandoms. Thank you kindly. Thank you very, very much. Was thinking, since you published a few, and from what I've read, very good books. Thank you. Do you have any advice for editing a story? Mine is currently 47 pages and growing. Don't worry about editing until you have a finished draft. That's the first thing. One of the classic mistakes of amateur writers, and this is something that I know I did early on when I was first trying to write my novel, is you hit a point where you start going back and refining and revising what you've already written instead of moving ahead. Don't even think about editing until you have a finished draft. And I know part of you is going to be tempted because you're going to get on a roll and you're going to write and you're going to think, wait, does this even fit what I already wrote? You know, did I just contradict myself? Does this flow? Don't worry about it. Finish the draft. The editing phase is for catching the mistakes. Don't worry about it until you have the finished draft. That is the main thing that I would advise folks on. Have you seen the storyline for the unmade 30th anniversary special, Lost in the Dark Dimension? Because it seems that Russell might be doing his own version of that with the 60th. I have not. I know nothing about it, and I would kindly ask you not to give me details if that is at all likely. Have I seen the new Owl House up to, at least up to Hollow Mind? I've seen up through whatever is the most recent episode that is on Disney Plus. I don't remember what the name of it was. Yes, I'm aware they're making Legally Blonde 3 Ms. Wicked Wolf. Fine. I don't know why you expect me to have an opinion on that. Supreme Omega, thank you again. Does every serialized TV show need a defined plan? No. It's very easy to overplan a series because, look, things are going to happen that you aren't expecting. Things are just not going to go your way. Actors will become unavailable. A certain thing that you'd planned on seeding won't go over well with the audience. Maybe you'll have to change that plan. A character you intended as a brief appearance gets really popular. You bring them in. So, like, for serialized TV, you should have a plan. You should have a sense of, here's where I'm starting, here's where I'm trying to get to, but it should not be rigid. It needs to be flexible because TV needs to be able to change and shift as it's being made. That's the nature of long-form storytelling. You have to be willing to roll with however it ends up going. And I think that's the thing. When people say, you know, this TV show was planned from the beginning, I'm like, planned outline or planned rigid? Because planned rigid, it probably wasn't very good unless it's a limited series. Like, mini-series, that's fine. Like, you know, anything that you're going to shoot the entirety of before a single episode of it airs, yes, you should have a complete plan for, obviously. But anything that the opening is there for the story to be impacted by the response of the audience, you better have some flexibility going on. I think a series needs more of a rule book and initial loose A to Z. I mean, it also depends on how you're selling it. So, like, one of the reasons that Lost kind of gets its butt kicked in this category is people complain that, you know, they didn't have everything worked out, and that's what's wrong with the show. That's not really what's wrong with the show. What's wrong with the show was it was marketed and sold and presented as if everything had an answer, but that was literally never the case. So I actually think Lost, its failures were more a failure of marketing clashing with the reality than what the creative process was. The Owl House episode I'm talking about is the one where Luce and a hunter go into Belos' mind. I did see that one, yes. I had called that twist about 10 episodes previous. But yes, I did. Am I excited for Jodie Whittaker's final episode? I don't know. Like, it feels very strange to think that Jodie Whittaker still has her last episode coming up, because the entire conversation has shifted to nearly everything other than that. So, which I feel bad about. I want to enjoy it, but I've said that about pretty much every Whittaker episode I've ever seen. I want to like them. I frequently have not. So, you know. I heard with Lost that it was supposed to be 3 seasons, and because of its popularity, the studio made Abrams extend it unnecessarily. I hadn't heard that for Lost. I know that was the case for Supernatural, because that was planned as 5 seasons. Lost was already a mess because season 3 happened, I think it was 3. It was either 3 or 2. I think it was 3. Happened during the writer's strike, so that, like, whatever was going on got borked anyways. Would I rather watch a Moffat or an RTD Whittaker episode? I don't know. Yeah. Neither. Like, I don't know. That's the kind of hypothetical I'm not a good person to ask. My brain rejects the premise of the question, because my brain goes, well, that's never going to happen, so why should I have an opinion on it at all? And then I can't form one. Thank you, Jesse. It was season 3 of Lost that happened during the writer's strike. Thank you very much. Would I be mad if Gotham was canon? I know it never will be, just curious. Why would I be mad at Gotham being canon? I like Gotham. I'm confused by the question. I will defend Lost to the death. You and my partner both, Jesse. Although she won't defend all of it. She will defend the ending, though. Would you like the idea of a multi-Doctor special in March 2025 to mark the 20th anniversary of the show's return? Okay, look. Pick an anniversary and stick to it. It's going to start turning into, like, those, that high school couple, like, it's our 6-week anniversary. Like, stop. Pick one. It's annual. Stick with that. I don't know why, but whenever I hear RTD, I immediately think of R2D2. Well, what's really confusing is I've seen people already preemptively calling this new era of him taking over the show again as RTD2. Which, yeah, that one sets off the R2D2 thing for me, too. It kind of feels like everyone is done with the 13 era. Big Finish are taking Dewan and Martin. Everyone else has moved on to RTD2. There it is right there. Yeah, that kind of does. It does feel like the case. I think, honestly, I think the issue is more how deeply lackluster Legend of the Sea Devils was, because if it had been good, I think people would be excited for last episode, but it was so bland that I think everyone just went, oh, this is what we can expect with the end of this era. Okay. And I feel bad about that, but like I really do think that Legend of the Sea Devils sucked the energy that was left. I still hope the Centenary special is good, but we'll see. Have to admit, RTD2 is a pretty clever name. Is it? It's just the dude's initials with a 2 slapped on the end. Clever to me is something that isn't obvious. So what do you think of the newest batch of Owl House episodes? They're good. They're good. I like the Owl House. I enjoy them. My kid loves them. Excuse me. I haven't watched Sea Devils. Disappointed to hear that a pirate episode was lackluster. The thing is, some people really overblew it. Like with it being, oh, it's this terrible, horrible, like it's not. It's too bland to get worked up about, which is a different kind of disappointment. Jesse Jenner likes Strange New Worlds. Do I? I have not seen it. I also haven't seen Discovery or anything of Lower Decks past the first episode, or Progeny, or the second season of Picard. So, like, I'm not a person to be asking about Star Trek. I have a kid. Yes, Sophia, I have a kid. I get. Oh, geez, I hadn't looked at the viewer numbers, so I'm assuming there must be a fair number of folks here who don't normally stop in. So yes, I do indeed have a child. I'd love to see Jodie get redeemed in Big Finish. She deserves better writing. I would like that too, but I mean, if she wants to take a break first, I get it. Where did I get this water bottle? This was sent to me to my P.O. box. I forget by whom, because I have a memory like a sieve, but that's where that comes from. I'm quite fond of it. So here's my idea from last week. Go to a bookstore or library, pick a 200-page plus book that you've never heard of, and review the last half of it. You can't read the blurbs either. That's an interesting, quirky project. Not sure it's something that I could engage with, but it's interesting. The one thing I want to know is how the idea of the centenary is shoehorned into the plot. Who knows? No, Loris, I haven't had the free time to listen to Doctor Who Redacted, because I have no free time at all. I am behind on a video for the Vera Wild channel that I had hoped to have out last month. I'll be lucky if I can have it out this month. And I'm trying to get my audiobook edited, and I don't have the time. I just don't, which is frustrating. Who would you say is the most bland or unnecessary Doctor Who villain? Well, I'm going to assume you mean recurring, because if we're going with one-offs, and everything's up for grabs, there's just too many options, to be blunt about it. I mean, I never liked the Ronnie. That's sort of the easy pass. But I don't know. Well, if we're going unnecessary, I guess you'd have to go one-off, because there's a number of episodes, oddly, a fair number of them written by Chris Chibnall, where the villains or the monsters don't need to be there, and they add nothing to the proceedings. I think that's true of the Saranga Conundrum. I think that's true of 42. I think that's not 100%, but I think Demons of the Punjab could have not had the aliens, and it would have been fine. Yeah, that does happen, unfortunately. Your Kerblam view is the best thing I've heard on the episode. Finally added something new to the conversation. It's funny to me that it was even a new perspective because like I hadn't rewatched it since it aired. And so I'd seen a lot of the criticisms that had come out towards it in the time since, and I understood them, but I hadn't like gone back and watched it for myself. And then I do that and I watched that episode and I realized everybody's missing the point, including the episode itself. Wait a minute, what? Likes are at 69. Nice. That is nice. We'll see how long it lasts. The Power of Three would be a fave if it wasn't for the last third. Yeah, that was actually a really good episode up until the tail end. How would you feel about animated Doctor Who content? I feel the monsters have some real potential. I'm not against it, but for some reason, just the general idea doesn't grab me. I have a hard time knowing why. But I don't know. I think the thing is, I need to see Doctor Who animated in a style other than how it's been animated up to this point. I need to see a completely fresh visual take on a Doctor Who animated series. Then maybe I could have an opinion. Because right now, all I can think of are the recreation animations, which are fine for what they are, but like I don't need more of that. On a scale of 1 to 10, how cross are you at RTT for buggering up your schedule? 4. Which probably sounds low, but you don't want to see me higher than a 6. I really thought Nightmare in Silver should have been a 2-parter. Well, yeah. Yeah, Nightmare in Silver has way, way too much going on. If they made a Doctor Who anime, would you watch it? Again, I feel like I'd have to see like a concept trailer at the very least. Because my gut instinct is out of morbid curiosity, but I don't think I'd get excited for it. I wish the BBC got someone better to animate the lost episodes. Like, I'm not saying I need them to hire Studio Madhouse, but at least something better. No, I see the animation style for the lost episode, I actually do think was the best style to go for. Like, you can debate over, some looking better than others, but I think that was the correct style if what you're doing is trying to recreate missing episodes. But to me, the idea of a Doctor Who animated series means we're not trying to recreate or slot in with existing footage or telesnaps or audio or whatever. We're doing something clean, and then you better have a better and more animated style than that. Supreme Omega. There we go. Thoughts on Soup's Silver Age stuff, like Crypto, Candor, Supergirl, the Legion, his time as Superboy. Do you feel they should be more important? I don't have a particular investment in the Silver Age one way or the other. I will say, respect to anyone who enjoys them and like wants to work. Here's my thing. Ultimately, me personally, I don't care. But I also don't think that even if you want to do something more serious with Superman, I don't think it's necessary to run away from that and act like none of it ever existed and be afraid of it and act like it damages the nobility of Superman. Superman's a goofy character, but he can be used to tell great stories. He can be used to tell silly stories, and you don't have to pretend that one or the other side of that coin doesn't exist. Did I see the CG on She-Hulk? Unfortunately, I did. I kind of opened talking about that. What are my thoughts on the Smurfs? I have none. I didn't watch the Smurfs. Have I ever watched wrestling? Early 90s I did. A little. Very little. I mean, I liked The Undertaker at the time. I was 10. But, other than that, I don't really have too much to say about that. Are you going to make a video on the newest episodes of Owl House? I don't know. I don't know if I have time to make a video on it. As I said, like I am deeply buried in work right now. I honestly don't think I have time. In addition to the fact that I'd probably have to rewatch most of season 2 to gather my thoughts again, because right now the entire season is pretty much bled together, but it's also probably bleeding together with some stuff from season 1, and I definitely don't have time for that. Like, I feel bad saying that, because it's great that people want to hear my opinions, and I don't like saying I don't have time, but I don't. I don't. Really love some alternate genre takes on Doctor Who. I mean, fully diving into it, Raimi horror with horrifying monsters on the loose, Brooklyn Nine-Nine sitcom with Unit. I'd like to see some things branch out a little bit more as well. Honestly, not necessarily as full series, on an episode-by-episode basis, honestly. Thoughts on WB's Multiversus? I have no clue what that is, so I have none. So it's still animation to fit something else that's already recorded, but would you be interested in some Big Finish stories were ever officially animated? Absolutely not. Never. They were made to be audio experiences. They are masterful audio experiences. The good ones are, at any rate. No, absolutely not. I see no benefit, and I think it is an undermining of the original work because it implies that it needs visuals, and it doesn't. I have a philosophical objection to that concept the same way that I have a philosophical objection to making live-action remakes of animated films. I feel like its very existence undercuts the value of the original because it implies that the original was somehow incomplete or somehow not definitive, which I reject. Speaking of wrestling, a recent TV screening of the first Spider-Man film cut out the mildly homophobic taunt that Peter said to Bonesaw. Oh, I mean, that's probably for the best. That said, I know like Channel Pup got a lot of mileage out of making fun of that line. So I have a little bit of a soft spot for it because of that, if nothing else. Am I aware of Eurovision? I am, in fact, aware that it is a thing. And I know what subwoofer is. That's all I've got. Well, I mean, I know what subwoofer is to the extent that anybody knows what the heck subwoofer is. But that's all I've got. Do you think Hootie's voice was partially inspired by Mr. Bill from SNL? I mean, potentially. I don't know why you think Hootie was based on Mr. Bill. Hootie's an everlasting demon embedded in a house. I've been here longer than Mr. Bill. Subwoofer was banging. Subwoofer... it was trying very hard to be the new What Does the Fox Say? And that transparent goal accepted, yeah, it was fun. Oh, I knew somebody was going to ask this. Why do you think David Tennant has Jodie's TARDIS during filming of the 60th anniversary? Feels like a direct continuation from the centenary or an alternate Doctor. David also has a new costume. I don't know. I don't know why any of it. I know a lot of people are using the fact that the TARDIS model seen on filming set being the one that Whittaker made use of as definitive proof of their prevalent theory that Whittaker is going to regenerate into Tennant and then Tennant into Gatwa, which I reject, not because I think it's impossible, but because I hate that idea so much. Oh, thank you, Carolyn. John, I forgot to give you a heart for the super chat. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you for that. But yeah, I just think it's such a terrible idea. I can't engage with it. And I've kind of mentioned before that I'm not a good person for storyline predictions because my brain just really doesn't work that way. Do I prefer Moffat or RTD as showrunner? Overall, I think Moffat had, for me, higher highlights, but I think in terms of a general approach, I think Davies had a better overall approach as a showrunner. I think as a writer, Moffat, his best stuff is better than Davies' best stuff. But Moffat's worst stuff is also far worse than Davies' worst stuff. So, it's a mix. I'm sorry, I'm getting a text. Give me a second. Okay, that can wait. Thomas Scott, thank you for the super chat. I can think. My brain is stalling out today. Thinking we will get individual 10 to 12 episodes in 2023. I don't know. Like, I'm honestly gonna be really curious as to how many episodes we get for series 14, because I would like BBC to grant more episodes to Doctor Who rather than keep cutting them the way they had. But like I would like to see it. I would honestly like to see it go back up to 13 episodes, but I'll take 10. But I am actually legitimately nervous about that until we actually get official word. Acknowledging your backed up schedule, do you have any interest in Amphibia now that it's over? I need to wait for it to hit Disney Plus. So I until that happens, rewatched Midnight. I hope the Russell that saved that for the end because he was worried it was too out there as the Russell we have now. I mean, Russell has just evolved as a writer in general since his time on Who, and I am very curious to see how he comes at things differently, which I've said before. I wouldn't want him to waste a regeneration on a 10 close because he did that already. I'd like it more if 10 and 12 helped Gatwa's doc get on his feet post-regen. I mean, like, I don't have a story preference in mind. I like Davis better, as much as Rose in 10 could annoy me at times. The most important girl pissed me all the way off. Like, I don't deeply dislike Rose, but I feel like Amy was a refinement of Rose and ditched most of the qualities about her that I didn't like. So if you're going to compare those two, I'm going to prefer Amy, certainly. Speaking of Amphibia, I hope they got rid of that character, Mr. X. Oh, I have no idea if that's going to show up again. Like, it is what it is. I'm not going to hold it against the show. So, what can you do? New subscriber here. Oh, well, welcome aboard, Jonathan. Yeah, it's funny how Doctor Who is the least exciting thing Russell has written in terms of excitement. Yeah, Russell has just gone on to have a really interesting and nuanced body of work since leaving Doctor Who. Ah, crap. Speaking of things I don't have the time for, frickin' Time Traveler's Wife started airing Sunday. I haven't watched that. I should really, really try to, because if I don't get to the first episode by the time the second one airs, that's basically a done deal, and who knows when I'll get to it. Have you rewatched Moffat's comic release special Time? I always thought there was deep misogyny running through the entire Moffat era. I haven't rewatched those shorts in a very long time. So I'm trying to figure out how why'd I want to open this can of worms? I think that Moffat has an awful lot of unfortunate, unconscious tropes and traits that he slips into when writing his female characters. I don't believe any of it's intentional, which is not to forgive it. Unintentional harm is still harm. But I see the way that people talk about some of the more problematic elements of his writing, or some of the more unfortunate patterns in his writing, particularly when it comes to female characters. And I see a lot of presumption of intent and malice towards him, which I don't see in the man's work at all. I think he could stand to be more introspective and be more aware of his own foibles, but I don't think he does any of the things he does out of malice. And honestly, here's where I really have to be careful how I say this. I actually like a lot of his female characters. I think the bigger problem with him is his tendency to write these same sort of collection of traits into nearly every prominent female character he writes. And, the whole sort of femme fatale angle, the mysterious angle, which we saw in everything from Clara to River Song to Missy to over in Sherlock with Irene Adler. It just comes up a lot, and it's not great, but I think it's worse for its repetition, because some of these characters I actually like, but they are undoubtedly part of a pattern that he overuses and does not seem to be aware of some of the issues with these patterns that he dips into. Time Traveler's Wife is Doctor Who fanfic, fight me. If the rumors turn out to be true, then we just know that the centenary special will end with another what moment. We'll see. Yeah, he does coupling over and over, and that already had enough series. And I do like coupling as well. I'm not sure coupling has aged especially well. I think it's funny. I'm not recommending anybody who hasn't already seen it to go out and watch it, but I like coupling. Sorry. I always thought RTD had a similar problem with writing mothers really poorly. Hadn't thought about that. I mean, because the only prominent mothers I can think off the top of my head in his era were Donna's mother and Rose's mother, and I don't really care for either of them, but their issues are pretty dissimilar. I mean, if you just mean the general idea of not great mothers, I mean, maybe, but I hesitate to call 2 instances a pattern. I like to have 3 before I assume that. Coupling. It was funny at the time. I mean, I still laugh, but then again, I still laugh at early Red Dwarf, some of which I probably shouldn't laugh at. So, from what I've seen, RTD writes women very desexualized, whereas Moffat writes women incredibly oversexualized. I'd say that frequently happens. I do also think people overstate how many times he does. He does do it too much. If we're going through, Moffat's oversexualized, overly mysterious femme fatale mold, there's a lot of people in there. Amy is, I don't think Amy is deeply oversexualized, but her trying to jump the Doctor isn't great. But I do think that Clara falls into this, River falls into this, Missy falls into this, Irene Adler falls into this. But there are also exceptions. Bill is almost like an anti-Moffat female character. And I love her for that. Excuse me. That's not to say that, the existence of Bill cancels out everything else. I'm just saying, that wasn't all he wrote. He did overwrite that, though. What is the best coupling accent? The one that springs to mind is the one with the phone calls. That is a good one. I remember the first coupling episode I saw, which I still have a soft spot for, is the one that it visualizes Patrick trying to leave for the night and go back to his own apartment to sleep instead of staying and sleeping with her in her bed as a game of chess. I like that one. Discord, yes! Okay, so I'm going to pop over to the Council of Geeks Discord really quick and address any questions that are there. Reminder here that the Council of Geeks Discord is a Patreon exclusive perk, so you can support the Patreon to get access to that. So I'm just going to pop over there real quick. Let's see. Question. I don't think you have ever done this, but have you ever wanted to address the content that other YouTube creators talking about Doctor Who do because of their blatant prejudices? Some people do call it out. I'm not sure it's a good idea yet. At the same time, I think people need to be called out. Okay. So one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to name names and I'm not going to name channels. If you know the kind of channel that I'm referring to, then you don't need me to tell you anyway. And if you don't know, then let me spare you your innocence. But I don't have a particularly deep use of call-out culture for someone who is not ashamed of the thing you're calling them out for. I think whatever value there is in call-out culture, which I'm going to use instead of cancel, because, boy, has that term turned into a whole other conversation. I think the value that there is to be had in that is in bringing attention to the actions or statements or beliefs of people that what they are like is either unknown to people who otherwise support them, or who maybe these people don't even realize that they stepped in it. Now, I think there are better and worse ways to go about that, but there's some value in that. I don't think there's a lot of value in sinking very much of your time calling out people who have absolutely no shame and do not think there is anything wrong with what they're doing. Now, to head off another thing at the past, that does not mean ignore them. That doesn't mean pretend like they don't exist, because as much as we may not want them to, these people are a part of the Doctor Who fandom. They're not separate from it. They are a part of, well, some of them are, because it is actually a documented thing. I don't know if with Doctor Who specifically, but it is actually a documented thing of far-right extremists integrating geek spaces on purpose to inject far-right rhetoric into what had previously been a politically disengaged population of young white men. Not to say that all of Doctor Who fandom is young white men, but that's who people like that try to speak to. But setting them aside for a moment, at least some of these people who get so angry every time anything in Doctor Who suggests that the current system we live in has problems or presents literally any character who isn't a straight white man, and they lose their damn minds. It's a cop-out for us to say, well, that's not what Doctor Who fandom is. That's not all that Doctor Who fandom is, but it is part of it. And so I think for my approach to these sorts of things in general, it can be helpful on occasion to talk about them, but to not address them, because that invites them into the conversation. We can talk about their ideas and why they're wrong and why they are harmful and hurtful and hateful, but we don't have to name them. We don't have to call them out specifically. And I'm not sure there's a lot of good that comes of that. We should head off their hate at the past, but we can talk about these concepts without having to engage with these people at all. And I don't mean like engage in an active debate. Don't ever do that. But like even in terms of like well, I'm gonna call them out and point out how stupid they are. And not that I have a problem with other creators who do that. Some creators who I even like do that, at least on occasion. But it's just not something that I'm ever going to do because I don't see a ton of value in it, at least versus other things I could be doing with my time. All right, so we've got, we've got a few questions here. All right, I'll try and get through these. Would you want to see a Star Trek show set in the 29th century that focuses on time travel more than exploring space? Probably not, but also keep in mind, I am not caught up even slightly on all things Star Trek, so I don't know enough about what is or isn't going on to know even how that would slot in or if it would. So probably not the best person to ask. Do you think Disney would ever allow the leads of one of their MCU movies to be explicitly queer? And I mean, like, actually give them a partner or something, not just allude to it with an offhanded comment like they did with Loki. Ever? Yes. Foreseeable future? No. I mean, and part of that just has to do with how few prominent queer characters there are for them to even pull from. Like, if Eternals had done better, it might be a different situation. But because Eternals not only underperformed financially, but also critically, and they loaded, like, I swear to God, they loaded every single frickin' representation egg into that damn basket. That's going to set things back a little bit, which is unfortunate. Do I think it'll ever happen? Sure. This year, next year, year after, 5 years? No, probably not. Let's see. It ended up getting canceled because of shenanigans, but for a while, Amazon had planned to adapt the culture novels. Oh, okay. So this is a series of books by Ian M. Bank. I've reviewed 2 of them. I have another one on my docket for this year. 2 questions about that, if it ever happened. Who would you want to play lead in the Player of Games? I'm not a good person to ask for fan casting. How would you depict the sex changing? Would you recast characters who change sex, or would you make them look different with CG? Okay. So someone to play the lead for Player of Games. I don't know why Colin Salmon's leaping to mind. I think he's just able to do the calm thing, but you can tell there's a lot going on behind the eyes really well. I think he'd be good for that. As for the sex change aspect of those stories, I think my own personal preference would be to cast 2 actors, 2 similarly looking actors, one of each gender, and to have them work really close together. Like, flat out learn each other's mannerisms. Because I think the way to do it wrong is to get 2 different people and just have it seem like they're 2 completely different people. But have them maintain similar mannerisms, outlook, have them both understand and agree the way a character would respond, and possibly even go out of their way to sync up certain aspects of patterns of speech. That's how I would do it, personally. So I'm on to the next question. So the mass shooting? Yeah. Which one? The latest one. Which latest one? Welcome to America. So initially I heard there was bad news. Like, I was watching a live stream, the streamer just said something about bad news, and I had to look up what it was myself. Is it bad that when I found that it was quote-unquote just a mass shooting, I was slightly relieved? The reason I felt that way was because I was expecting the bad news to be something that affects millions of people, like the Roe leak, but instead it was just one guy killed 13 people. I don't think you're a bad person for feeling a sense of relief at that. I think it says a lot about the state of the world that finding that out gave you a sense of relief versus what you thought it was going to be. I think that is what it condemns. What big Finnish audio dramas would you recommend for start, but from New Who? Your video on the topic mostly recommends story from previous Doctors. I'm not really sure I want to start with unfamiliar characters. Unfortunately, I have not listened to very much of the big Finnish stuff with the newer Doctors. I am in possession of, but But I have not had the time to listen to Ninth Doctor adventures. I haven't listened to any of the 10th Doctor stuff. So I'm still, I understand your reasoning. I'm still going to recommend Jubilee because story-wise, it's what Dalek from Series 1 is based off of. So even if you're not super familiar with number 6, which is the Doctor in that story, you'll still know enough about the story going in that it'll help you acclimate to the audio medium if you're not used to audio dramas. Because you'll be coming into a story that you already know at least aspects of. So you'll find your footing in following the story way, way, way easier. And that'll give you a chance to focus on getting to know the character because you're not going to be completely floundering with the narrative. There are probably some very good ones with some of the newer Doctors. I mean, some stuff that is fun. Here's another one I'll recommend. Something that is very fun. And might give you a taste. Try Missy, Series 1. I had a lot of fun with that. And unless you just flat out don't like Missy, in which case probably best not to, I think that's a solid one. Like, again, to kind of get your feet under you. What did I think about the revelation of King's origin? Okay, so we're back to Owl House. I really liked it because he got what he originally wanted in Season 1 rather than what he wants now. I thought it was sweet. I also like flashbacks to Baby King is like the cutest freaking thing ever. All right. I'm almost done with these, and then I'll come back to the chat. Spent more time in the Discord than I usually do. On the subject of the Doctor, would you say the Doctor works best as this kind of Ash Williams Evil Dead style survivor, such as the Doctor began as more or less just an average, if eccentric, Time Lord who left Gallifrey and went from essentially a nobody to something important rather than being this destined to be great idea. I don't have a problem with epic destinies, but the Doctor's always felt off. I actually don't like either for the Doctor. Because as far as I'm concerned, and I've said this in videos before, I don't think the Doctor should be important on a galactic or universal scale. And people will try and argue with me on that. It's like, but the Doctor is traveling through all of time and space, so like he, she, or they are showing up all over the place, so of course they're embedded in history and are important everywhere. No! Do you know how big the universe is? Do you know how long time expands to? Do you know how old the Doctor is? Confirmed? Because you can't count the billions of years that he supposedly spent in the frickin' confession dial from Heaven Sent. He's around 2,000 years old. I'm sorry, 2,000 years of life, you do not embed yourself across all this light years of space and these billions and trillions of years of time. So I hate the idea of the Doctor being important at all. I double hate it as a destiny idea, which is part of why I deeply, deeply loathe the Timeless Child. I don't care about lore. Some people hate that because it messes up lore. I don't care about lore. I do care about the Doctor just being someone who shows up and wants to help. That's all I want the Doctor to be. I do want the Doctor to be the smartest person in the room. I do want the Doctor to come in and save people, but not because that's some destiny or some praise hero. Like, no, just, well, something's wrong. I'm going to try and help. That's all I want. Hey. Anyways, I'm back in the chat. Oh, got some more super chats, so I got to deal with those. Woo, let's see. Supreme Omega, in 2000s comics, how do you feel about writers and editors recreating their nostalgia with Hal and Barry revived in DC and Peter being single again in Marvel? Some of the worst stuff that happened in comics in the last 40 years. That's what I think. I hate those decisions. As much as we love to mock the 90s in comics, boy, oh boy. At least that's silly. The things that comics had to do to bring back Hal and Barry, and like, I'm more annoyed with DC than Marvel, although dissolving Peter's marriage was really freaking stupid. But with the stuff that DC was doing, it robbed them of one of the things they had that Marvel didn't really do. Legacy heroes. And I love the idea of legacy heroes. But Jeff Johns and Dan DiDio decided, well, this isn't the Flash that I grew up with. I grew up with Barry Allen, so Wally West, you don't exist. Boom! It's selfish, and it's short-sighted, and it robbed the DC comics of one of its better attributes. The entire idea of legacy was something that was increasingly becoming embedded and was really cool. Mantles being passed on. Who's worthy? This new person who takes on the mantle, are they falling short? Should someone else step up? It brings a whole new aspect of storytelling that they were just starting to get into, and they just freaking threw it out the window. I'm like, I always liked Marvel better, but even to the degree that I like DC, it only makes me more ticked off at them for what they've spent the last 20 odd years doing. Here's the thing, if I liked DC comics any more than I do, it would only make me hate them more. If that makes sense. Do you think Big Finish will be able to redeem Whitaker's Doctor in future stories? I think they will be able to offer her better stories than she's had, if that's what you mean by redemption. Dude, the 90s were totally like that, man. Yeah, they were. Yep, to paraphrase, the Doctor's just this guy, you know? Yes, he is. Thank you. Oh, dang it. I was going to say that was Ulan Kalufit. It's not. I don't think. Damn it. Thought I was going to show off my Hitchhiker's Guide knowledge by remembering who the heck actually said that line. I know who it is. It's Zephod Shrink. But I cannot remember his name now. Nuts. I disagree with your viewpoints on multiverse. I personally find them an opening to endless stories. Like, I get that in theory, but the thing is, in my mind, at least in terms of the practicality of it, multiverses are usually used to actually just tell the same stories again with a twist. Because now it's like, ooh, it's Batman again, but this time he's Russian. It's Batman again, but this time he's a vampire. Like, in my mind, a multiverse should be something more than parallel. You know what? I should revise that. I don't have a problem with multiverse. I am deeply bored by parallel worlds, though. Deeply bored. Like, what a boring idea. You couldn't think of anything interesting to do. You had to create a whole new world to do the same boring stuff you're already doing in. And again, it has more to do with how rarely I've seen them pay off in anything that was good for more than one or two stories. Captain Omni, thank you very much again. So the Doctor should just be known by the Daleks, Cybermen, since common villains, and the rest being who's this. I actually love that idea. Yeah, basically. Like, occasionally, like the Time Lords, he shouldn't, I'm saying he because that's who we're getting now, but I'll go with they because we've had multi-genders. The Doctor, they should be known by the Time Lords. They shouldn't be important to the Time Lords. They should know who the Doctor is because the Doctor's annoying. But the Doctor shouldn't be important to the Time Lords. The Doctor should be important definitely to the Daleks. They freaking hate him. And sometimes the Cybermen. I wouldn't even say that should always be the case. But barring that, only a handful of specific people. Like, obviously, the Master cares. Omega, if they ever finally bring him back, he should care. But by and large, yeah, the general response is, I'm the Doctor. Who? I mean, that's the name of the show, Doctor Who. Nobody knows. Not because he's ancient and mysterious, but like, who's this guy? Shane Wirostek? Something. I butchered it, I'm sure. Thank you so much for the super chat. I always like the idea of what made the Doctor special is that they chose to leave stodgy, uptight people and help and experience the universe. Yes, exactly that. Sorry, but could you repeat the name of the player of games actor you suggested? I Googled what I thought you said and got nothing. Colin Salmon was who I thought. Salmon as in the fish, I believe. Now you've got me second guessing it. Yeah, Colin Salmon, last name Salmon. That's who I would go with. I was into comics in the 80s, X-Men, New Mutants, ElfQuest. I was into comics in the 90s for a little bit, but then the 90s really got going and I had to bail. Gag Halfront. Thank you, Rowan. I knew somebody would get me, would have my back for that. I should wrap it up soon, but I feel like I spent so long in the Discord. I'm just gonna try and catch up a little bit. His favorite Family Guy character? I haven't watched Family Guy in ages. I don't even know. I love the series Sliders, and that premise depended majorly on multiverse. I liked Sliders at the time. I think I'd probably be bored by it if I tried watching it now. I missed a couple of super chats. Oh, thank you, Carowin. Jeez. Oh, you're right. You're right, I did. Thank you so much, Carowin. That's my bad. That is my bad. Everybody thank Carowin for wrangling my squirrel brain. She's very good at it. Raya C. Raya or Raya, I'm not sure. Thank you so much. I recently became a patron. This is my first live stream. I think you critique Doctor Who episodes really well. Give plenty of pros and cons. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to have you here. And John Vinyls came in with another one. Can the Doctor be read as an anarchist hero who defies the power structures of the universe? Sometimes. I think that's definitely an approach to take with the Doctor. And like people should understand, this would be a case where you need to understand anarchism as a political philosophy, not just the general idea of anarchy. Like anarchism is an actual political philosophy that basically says power structures are inherently immoral. Is the super condensed version of it. So anything that distributes power as evenly as possible, that is what they want. But it's not socialism. It's not where you are purposefully dividing everything up equally, because that itself is a power system and a power structure that forces the divide, and they're against that too. I do think the Doctor frequently has anarchistic tendencies. Let's go with that. Let's see, where was I? Oh, Welsh Wrestling Geeks. I love that. Thank you so much for the super chat. I always found that Jackie as a character is held in higher regard with UK fans because in the UK everyone knows a Jackie. That makes sense. I don't particularly care for Jackie, but I don't know a Jackie. So yeah, no, that's probably the single best explanation I've ever gotten for the appeal of Jackie. You did it in one sentence. People have been telling me for years why they like Jackie, and you got me to understand it better in one sentence than anybody else. Nice. Captain Omni again came back. Thanks so much. My favorite take on the multiverse is one that might seem like just parallel worlds, but it goes in wildly different areas. I mean, like, that's the general thing. For me, a multiverse, and this is something that, like, the Doctor Strange movie did in tiny doses, but mostly was doing the parallel universe thing. Like, it should really be something so and like, here's the thing that's really weird to me about when you're doing the parallel worlds thing. The points of divergence are always recent And it's never, they almost never do something where the world is completely different because of one tiny detail that was changed from 3,000 years ago. It's always like, well, basically the world was exactly as we experienced up until about 10 years ago, and then there was this divergent thing that gave us this alternate universe. I'm like, that's real boring. Like, and like, here's me saying up front, I think to take proper advantage of a multiverse concept is a lot of work. Like, to the point that I get why people don't do it that way, except it's the only way to make it interesting to me, at least at this point. And let's see here. Darren Voss just confirmed Jacqueline King is back as Sylvia. Sylvia. Give me a second. Jacqueline King. Oh, Donna's mother. Okay. That's not super surprising. That's not something I need to make another video on. That's the... It's... Do you think Big Finish could write better stories in the future to help Jodie Whittaker's Dr. Shine? I hope so. I think they could. We'll see. Was Zephod responsible for the Earth getting demolished in the books? No. No, he wasn't. I'm assuming you've only seen the movies, or at least are more familiar with the movie than the books. No, the Earth... So, the reason the Earth got destroyed changed a couple of times from book to book. I don't think it was ever Zephod's fault, if I'm remembering correctly. Anarchism is a branch of socialism. It is, but it's a far end of it. Like, people think that socialism is as far as leftist ideology goes. Like, nope, it keeps going. Wait, have you seen Edge of the World, Labyrinth Runners, and Oh Titan, Where Art Thou? I was under the impression that you'd only seen up to Hollow Mind and other episodes on Disney Plus. I don't think I've seen those. Alyssa. Would you refer to Jackie Tyler as a Karen? Jackie's not a Karen. Sylvia might be. Jackie isn't. No. Absolutely not. But yeah, I should wrap it up. So 255 AD, my point with anarchism was not that it is anti-socialist, it's that your actual anarchists would consider even socialism to be a power structure. It would probably be one that they would think is better and less an immediate need of dismantlement than anything further right of it. But most anarchists would also seek to dismantle a socialist power structure, just maybe not with quite as much fervor. Sneaking in one more. Oh, someone was asking about jelly babies. Yeah, somebody sent me jelly babies once. They're weird. They are weird. I don't hate them, but yeah, they're weird. Captain Omni. Thank you so much. One more time. Earth 13 in DC is a fun alternate Earth where magic literally took over all aspects, like Constantine is a tights-wearing superhero called Hellblazer. Now, see, that's a little bit more interesting than the usual stuff. But even that, I suspect I'd only find entertaining for one outing, I think. Jackie's too poor to be a Karen. I would say that Karen tendencies skew middle class. It's not an absolute requirement, though. I have met some poverty line Karens, and they're not Jackie. So that's another thing that I feel confident saying that Jackie is not a Karen. Anyways, yes. Okay. The Twitch. Alyssa, I don't know because I don't remember the names of the episodes. I don't in specific. Maybe if you're talking about where somebody asked about King, it's possible that like I was thinking about the earlier episode about King's background. If there's a newer one that I haven't seen, that I might have conflated the one I have with one that I haven't yet and didn't catch the thing with the question. I don't remember the episode names. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap it up. Yes, Twitch in the morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. I am continuing to play Transistor, which is a cool game. I'm enjoying that. So I'm going to stick with that at the very least throughout the remainder of this week. So I hope that folks will tune in for that. Hopefully, I will also have the Witchfinders ready to go live tomorrow as well on the main channel. And I gotta get editing done for something to go up in the break room because it's been almost a week since something went there. Yes, I have no free time. Did I mention that? I think I mentioned that. Anyways, thank you all for tuning in and being here with me. I appreciate your time and your support. So I hope that you be well, be safe, be kind, and high voltage sneaking in under the wire, bloody UK time zones. I always miss your live streams. Well, thank you very much for the super chat, all the same. Just remember that you are the council. You are beautiful. You are valid. You are loved. I'm just running the meetings, and until next time, this council is adjourned. McCavity!